Okay, now start. Yeah, very means interesting and very important session. Means we are going. Yeah, now. Yeah, today I think. Not today. I'm waited in previous time also. Yeah, because Sanjeev sir have lots of good idea about especially Indian disaster. You know, because one time, 1 year, 2 time, I connected with Sanjeev sir, and I means learned little bit things. So yeah, definitely in previous time I was thinking, yeah, definitely when I will get chance that time, means I want to me listen more this topic, especially through Sanjeev sir. Yeah, Sanjeev sir. So today I requested, please, whatever you have a idea about topic, please you can share with us. Yeah, Sanjeev sir.
Sure, Ravindra, good evening, and good evening to all the participants. Uh, and Thank you for the opportunity. So, today I will be delivering a brief introduction about disasters and disaster management. So, first of all, we should know what is disaster. So, suppose you are there are some terminologies associated with disaster. So, the first term is what you call a hazard. Hazard is a situation which can pose or turn into a disaster in due course of time. Suppose, for example, we are living in Assam. Assam is generally a flood-prone area. So there are places which are low-lying. So since people are living in such areas which are low-lying, and whenever there are rains, and even in China, if there are rains and they release the water from there, the water comes down and it reaches Guwahati or Assam, the low-lying areas, and the flooding is there. So living in those areas and which are flood prone, so that is a hazard. Suppose you are living in a seismic zone 5, whole northeast region falls in seismic zone 5. So it's a hazard which is always impending, but it is not important that it can be coming at any point of time. So uh, when that hazard it strikes, suppose it's a seismic zone 5 and an earthquake strikes, then it is called a disaster. Disaster is something that the local population is not able to cope up with, and you require some outside assistance. Suppose there is a disaster in Maharashtra. There had been incessant rains, and the even the streets and all the urban areas, it got flooded. And even by putting the best efforts, the Maharashtra government was not able to manage it properly. Then they called up the central government, and the National Disaster Response Force teams mobilized. So whenever a hazard strikes, it's called disaster, and when it's out of the coping capability of the community in general or even the state. There are various terminologies related to disaster. One is called preparedness. Suppose the government is doing good job, then what they do, suppose this year there had been floods in Maharashtra, and it had been raining very incessantly. Even we had floods in Chennai 2 years back. So what government can do, they can chalk out a plan as to how to avoid this disaster in future. So if they prepare for it, and they have put some early warning elements, some sensors in the river body from where the water is coming, and they get an alert and at an early stage that okay, now the water level has started to reach the danger level, then the people can be evacuated from the low lying areas to the high grounds. So that is called preparedness. The second term associated with disaster management is what you call mitigation. Mitigation is something that if the people are living in a low lying area and they don't have any other land to shift to, they then one thing can be done, that the houses can be elevated. There could be some earth filling, and the floor of the house, it can be raised to such a level that whenever the water level rises, the house doesn't get affected. So that is called mitigation. That means that you are there, but you have taken preventive measures so that the damage is minimized a little. Then comes prevention. Prevention is something that okay, you know that the flood water will be coming in July or August. Then you start preparing some embankments from the places where the water is likely to come, and you just properly manage your drainage system. And the drainage system is as such that whenever the rains come, the water level is moving out of the slope and it reaches to a place where it doesn't affect anybody. So these are the few terms associated with disaster. Then comes the levels of disaster. we have four levels of disaster. First is the level zero. Level zero is we are in level zero right now. We are not inside any disaster. It's a time when we are not in a disaster, but we know that the disaster can come, and we do our activities for trying to prevent the disaster. So this is level zero. When the disaster strikes, and it's a small disaster, then if it can be managed by the local people, suppose the local residents or maybe the district authorities, it is called level one disaster, and it can be easily managed by the people who are residing in that particular locality. Then comes the second level, it's the level two. It's something that the district can't manage or the local people can't manage, and they need some resources from the state. Then they approach the state. The district authorities, they send a requisition to the state, or they call them telephonically that, okay, we are into such a disaster and this has happened in our locality, so we need assistance from you. So if that is the case, it's called the level 2 disaster. And the fourth level is the level 3 disaster. If it's a level 3 disaster, the central government is approached by the state government, and the central government then sends the teams, the national teams, to that place. They may even mobilize the other state disaster response forces. Suppose, for example, we had a disaster in Meghalaya. There was a coal mine accident where 13 of the laborers were trapped inside a coal mine. So the people from Odisha Disaster Response Force, they were called because they specialize in such type of works. So they were called from there for taking out the water from that coal mine. So if you approach the center, it means that the situation has gone out of control for the state also. And then if the center intervenes, it's a level 3 disaster. So these are the levels of disaster. Then I think it might be getting a little technical. So just coming to the basic level, disasters are of two types basically. First is a natural disaster. Second is a man-made disaster. Natural disaster can also be further classified into three things: earth-related disasters. So earth-related disasters are something like landslides, where a portion of the earth, it slides due to incessant rains, and it comes down from a height. Suppose there is a mountain and there had been rains incessantly. Generally, when the landslide happens, it's a situation when the rains are very slowly and continuously pouring down, and the water makes its way inside the mountain or the rock, and it makes the soil loose and the rock slides down. So if somebody is staying right below it, that locality is affected by that landslide. So first is landslide and second is earthquake. If we go by the earth related disasters, these are the two main disasters categorized in natural category. Then comes the wind related disasters. You might have heard about the various cyclones and super cyclones, storms, tidal waves. They all regularly come on the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. Even last year I could remember that there had been very strong winds in Mumbai, and there was Foni in Odisha. So these disasters are called wind related disasters. There is a low pressure area forming at some point in the sea, and it starts making a form of cyclone. It revolves and it moves very fastly. The faster it moves, the more damaging it is. And if it crosses a level of 70 to 80 kilometers per hour, it's generally very damaging to the property. And as per the building codes are concerned, the Indian buildings are generally designed in a manner that they sustain a wind speed of around 200 kilometers per hour. So that way, it's very less likely that a cyclone can damage a concrete building. But if it's a thatched roof or it's a temporary type of structure, it can be easily damaged by that wind. Next comes the water-related disaster. It's like flash floods. These disasters can be categorized into natural disasters, which are water-related. Second term is the man-made disaster. Man-made disaster is something that is created by human beings. Suppose we have a terrorist strike, we have a war with some other country, there is a nuclear explosion. Even this COVID, you can term it as a man-made disaster, because it's because of human involvement and inappropriate hygiene maintained by the people that it started in China, and slowly but steadily it has moved to all parts of the world, and it has shown its deadly effects. So this can also be termed in the man-made disaster. and we have accidents, we have riots. All these are categorized in man-made disasters. So I think I had taken enough time, and we should break out for giving opportunity to other members. And thank you for the patient listening. I will continue with the topic some other day whenever we have time. Thank you, Ravindra sir. Back to you.
Really, Sanjeev sir, it's not very fantastic and unbelievable, because before your session, I never had this type word, like means types of disaster and human disaster really are totally new, especially myself really, and I learned lots of good things, and yeah, I hope and I believe because it's like means very informative, because I think nowadays it's happened, because we are living in Indian country, and India has lots of different types of circumstances. So definitely each means not one season. I think different season, mostly region rainy season. Lots of Indian people face means lots of problem about Indian disaster. But behind this reason, I think some it like a means not means human being hand, but I think you have a idea about how to save. In previous before 100% you can save our life. Yes, but I think mostly Indian people don't have any idea. So definitely it's happened. Yeah, really, means thanks, Sanjeev sir, bottom of my heart. Really, it's a very whatever you deliver, it's like a very remarkable as well as very informative also. Thank you, sir.